Snow Mexican time is a good time to rock the night away. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Snow Mexicans. I'm your host, Functional, with my magnanimous co-host, lovely as always, Genty Maxi. And everybody's favorite YouTube racist, CRYPTIC.
That sounds about right.
See, he disconnected his microphone. I guess, telling it how it is always makes those racists hang their head in shame. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Misclick there?
Yeah, misclick there.
Yeah. That's okay. But, guys, it's okay because he's a minority. He's allowed to be racist. How are you doing, CRYPTIC?
I'm all right. I'm allowed to be racist. You got to say it right.
Racist. Why are you so racist?
Racist?
Racist. Yeah, sounds about right. So how you guys been?
So far, so good.
Yeah, I can't really complain. I'm in the... Oh, no, it looks like it's cleared up. But for the better part of the day, it was mid-snowstorm. So to be expected in Cannuckistan. So, I didn't have to go anywhere today. So fuck that.
Just had a random snow flurries just out of nowhere for 5 minutes and it just ended. Don't know why.
Probably because it's wintertime.
Well, no, I live in a state where I live right next to a mountain, so we had that weird Chinook effect also.
Right.
It sounds crazy when you talk about it. Like literally, I could. It's one of those things where if we ever have an extreme weather week, if I had the right camera set up for it, I would just videotape it and put it on, maybe a speed up on it, just to show what goes on in a day.
Yeah, I'd probably slap a GoPro. That's something else entirely. If you want to find out how to get your own supply of male GoPro, please contact me at never. But a GoPro and just go out into one of these like crazy Canadian snowstorms and just film and just fuck around in it because it is insane. Like literally walking down the street and then slowly watching the sidewalks disappear, then the street disappear, and then trying to watch these cars literally drive through snowbanks in the middle of the street. Amazing.
See, that's where I was getting at with my joke about building an abode in the middle of Alberta in the shape of an igloo, because I was thinking because we can't really make those where I am. Like I said, most of the snow up here, we don't have the high enough humidity to make it clumpy.
Yeah, to get that nice packing snow.
Yeah, so there is no igloos up here. Like you're not even going to get a hill.
My sister's kids made snowmen the other week, and this a representation of their family, whatever, and this little snow dog. And I was like, the snow dog was incredible because they packed the snow really, really tight and almost did it like an ice sculpture and just scraped away at it and whatever. And these kids, they're young teens and range from the young teens, and the oldest is 18, just going away to university. Oh my God, I'm getting so old. And the dog was just incredible. You had the snowman, the typical three giant snowballs and pieces of coal and carrots and what have you for the features. But then this dog that looked pretty much like their dog, but in a snow sculpture. It was really incredible.
Yeah. I used to do that a lot too, because it's easier to carve away at it than it is to get actual features. Like I remember. And here's the thing, finding them nowadays is not going to happen. But back in my early 20s to 25, you would find pictures of people making snow figurines, like girls with tits and skirts and, guys and girls in inappropriate. I remember there was this one field where they went through different sex positions. Each snow person was in a different sex position. You cannot find those online. So you try to tell the Brits that, yes, you can make snow people with tits. It is possible to clump the snow enough to suspend it in air and give a snow person proper D cups, if not bigger because it's snow. I don't live in the province that can do that. It's pure powder right now. And it has been for years. I would say the last time we had proper clumping snow, I was probably about 15. And that's what I did. Like I just made one big ball and then just scraped it around until I got my shapes out of it. And, you know, I had a dog and I had a squirrel and I almost had a deer, but the damn thing fell apart. So I was like, okay, well, you're a dead deer. This is the snowman's going to eat you now. Have fun with that.
You remember how in previous streams I mentioned how when I was a kid I was a little bit of a shit disturber, and I at times made mortars, cannons, explosives. She was just fucking around, not in any malicious or violent attempt, but just because I had the information and I wanted to fuck around. And it's not like I'm building pipe bombs, but more so like little firecrackers and stuff. So with the snow, well, suffice it to say, growing up, my then future high school was right across the street. So there's big empty fields of nothing but snow, usually about 4 or 5 feet high. And I built a snow trebuchet. So I would roll up one of those big balls of snow that you would typically use for the base of a snowman. And, my mom would come out and be like, "Oh, what you building?" I'm like, And then she would, before I could even answer, she'd be like, "Oh, snowmen?" I'm like, yeah, snowmen, that's it. Little did she see the little trebuchet thing being sort of jury rigged to the tree, and I would lob these giant snowballs that probably weighed about 200 pounds out of my backyard into the middle of the field where I just got the snow. And then I got the idea of, maybe I should build like a castle. So I built like this huge snow castle. And after I let loose the first snow meteor from the trebuchet, all I could hear is I couldn't hear the name, but all I heard was, "Get down! Watch out! Oh my God!" It turns out that a couple neighborhood kids decided that they were going to try to take over my castle and play in it while I was shooting these giant snowballs at it. Yeah, they learned a good lesson that day to not fuck with other people's shit. And I learned a good lesson in that fuck off, get off my property.
Get off
not technically my property, but the snow was my creation, so that's my art, motherfucker. So not our first story for the day, but I have a funny video because last stream we had the Canadian octopus that took down an American bald eagle. Today we have Canadian moose coming down into the United States and doing what moose do best. I hope there's sound. I think I clicked sound, but
holy fucking shit! Ma, come outside! There's a fucking moose, a buffalo or some shit.
What's some buffalo or some shit?
Going? Ma,
hey Ma!
Oh, shit!
This
is some fucking National Geographic shit. Ma, call a fucking cops or the ASPCA. There's animals fighting in the front lawn.
The ASPCA.
Oh shit!
That got to be from New Jersey or New York. That's
yeah.
New York, so that's right.
Ma.
Yeah, it's definitely in the Northeast, probably around Jersey, New York State. And these are Canadian moose. When it gets really, really cold, they tend to migrate a little bit south. This is like Americans like to have all this big bluster about how America's so great, America. But then they freak out when they get a little bit of taste of Canadiana. You know what I mean?
Well, we have mooses here too. They're probably in a suburban area where those people don't know shit about
yeah, but
animals.
We get moose in suburban areas here. That's the thing. That's the difference. For us, it'd be like, oh shit, there's some moose out in the front yard again. Fuck. Yeah. I was gonna mow the lawn. Well, let them do their business, and then hopefully they won't be getting to fucking or anything. But no, these are two males.
Last month I was driving, and then I live in the suburbs. But there was this deer, this fawn. She's just sitting there taunting a couple of dogs behind a fence. I'm just like, really? I just kept driving. I was like, whatever. Another day. But some people they just don't don't leave the city or the suburbs, and they don't know shit like that. That's all.
Yeah, I refer to them as citiots because they're usually, yeah. But yeah, I mean, from a Canadian perspective, it's kind of like, you guys can talk a big game, and there are some things that we would like to adopt, like freedom of speech. Those are really nice things. But every so once in a while, our wildlife kind of just says to the Americans, like, hey, don't fuck with us. We're your friends. We're nice. We're Canadians, but don't fuck with us.
But you know what? They haven't done enough. They haven't expressed how delicious they are. I think the problem is the Americans haven't really. I mean, I don't doubt that. Have you ever had moose, CRYPTIC? Because I think you should try moose. It's delicious.
I've had moose, deer, elk, all that stuff.
Yeah. See what I mean? It's delicious.
Good. You've had the experience with the game meats.
Yeah. Well, we have wild boar too, so that's nice.
Well, wild boar is good too. Yes.
You're using a different name, Elowen.
Is she?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, let's go find out.
Yeah, wild boar.
Oh
yeah, you might not want to have your full name out on the stream there.
Yeah.
But first off, I'd like to start off with the big news, which happens to be across the pond and not Canadian moose. I don't know. You might have the wrong account running. You might have separate YouTube accounts. So obviously the big news is the Tories over in the UK won by a fucking slaughter of the Labour Party. And as much as I don't really care about partisanship, I do like Bojo. I do like Boris Johnson. I think he's a capable politician. And I think that this is a good sign, because far too much, and I know this hits home with CRYPTIC, in the West, communism has been rearing its ugly head. And it's pretty prevalent down in the States, because it seems like the Democratic Party is now being overrun by communist rhetoric. And in the UK, you can just delete the comments. In the UK, Corbyn, a fan of communism, well-known anti-Semite and gaffer and just all-around douchebag, didn't get a foothold. It was very different with the way that our political system worked, in that, we tried to oust the Liberal Party because they're becoming more and more communist. And not a good not a quote unquote benevolent communist, but just a downright authoritarian communism, where just outright from the outset, they just need to control every bit of policy, and from everything from government policy to the policies in which you conduct yourself at home. And it's refreshing to see that at least one of the big three Western nations is now saying no to outright communism, because these parties are like the left parties in the three nations. They're not liberal. Sorry, most of us, well-thinking, intelligent liberals are siding with the other side, with your quote-unquote Republican, conservative, what have you, parties, because you guys are no longer liberal. You guys are no longer leaning on left-wing values. You've sunken your claws into just outright abhorrible policy. And I'm not mincing words when I say communism.
Well, I mean, that's the goal of socialism, is to bring in communism. It's a stepping stone. That's all it is.
I can see that. And I would say, in some respects, it might be a slippery slope fallacy, but in most respects, no, it's not. It really is the stepping stones to full-blown communism. Because the only reason I say that is because I believe in social programs. I do believe that some have merit and are worth the cost to the public at large, to your society at large, because they're a net good. Things like proper K through 12 education, things like a socialized healthcare program. These things you know, we can debate in detail what the pros and cons are, but I think overall, if done as best as you can implement them, aren't socialism, they're just social programs. I think people sort of tend to conflate those things on social media, but I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but see, that's why I disagree with you with the whole social net stuff.
Okay.
Because where does it end, right? Where does it end? So you give one group let's say the I don't know, the what group is given a lot of preference nowadays? Mentally ill, right? You take care of them, great. But then what's next? You're gonna have people that are trans. Next thing you know, people that identify themselves as, it's already a slippery slope, right? I'm not saying I'm totally against it. Like, I have disabled siblings, right? But you have, if you want to do something like that, you have to have very strict rules and, you know, and guidelines. But in both of our countries, Lauren Southern can go to your court and say, I'm a woman, you know. She can classify herself as having some kind of dysphoria, and you guys would have to pay for her counseling and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, where does it end? Type of deal is.
Well, I mean, with treatment and such, to that extent of, you know, mental health care, that part I don't mind. It's the paying for a reassignment surgery, cosmetic surgeries, elective surgeries to, I haven't really gone into my perspective of things like transgenderism in whole, but you know, I believe that these things are very elective and, you know, demonstrably have not done the groups that are asking for this. It hasn't given them any good. It hasn't produced any good in their lives. The suicide rates, the depression rates, all these negatives that are quantifiable before and after such kinds of things are really negligible. There really is no difference in the rates of these things. So where do we draw the line? Well, we draw it at, you know, necessary things. So sticking with healthcare, you know, basic healthcare has been shown to increase life expectancy, happiness, overall happiness, decrease in crime, depression, etc. And where we draw the line is, well, things that are elective. So things that aren't going to positively impact your health because of a disease or some form of other illness that would be detrimental to your life. I hope that gives you sort of a broad strokes.
Yeah, well, I mean,
where I stand on it.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent, but I just don't like the fact that the government is controlling it. You know what I mean? That's my biggest gripe, is the government does not do anything efficient. Never have and never will, in my honest opinion. When it becomes a bloated bureaucracy at every turn, every single type of government program that's run by any country, Canada, United States, UK, whatever. Look at the NHS, right? Boris won. He can't even privatize part of the NHS because it's inefficient and the people are revolting against that. And the only reason why he won is he pledged basically to increase funding for it and not touch anything else, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where that comes from, because Johnson is a big supporter of the NHS.
Right.
However, he, like you, sees that there's bloat, sees that there's overreach, sees that there's problems, wants to fix the problems, but also in the same breath wants to increase funding because, you know, I mean, they're a very specific case in that their NHS is underfunded. Mm. And, you know, I totally agree with you that governments don't really do things entirely efficiently, but that is somewhat of a separate problem when you're talking about things specifically like healthcare. And I think that we can, you know, I've gone on about this at length before on our streams about how none of the big three, their governing systems of governance have really gone any sort of significant update in the last long ass while. Like, you know, there isn't enough here in Canada. Trudeau, whatever you want to call him, ran on a platform of legalizing marijuana and political reform. He completely threw political reform like day 2 as he took office out the window. And that was one of the biggest things, because again, it's not like most people are stupid. Most people have some semblance of, yes, the system is a little bit outdated. We're living in the information age. We haven't had any substantial governmental reforms since the Industrial fucking Revolution. So why aren't we updating these things? Why aren't we? And it's because these people, these lifers in government, these career politicians have no interest in doing anything but keeping themselves in government, because they're suckling at these teats. And if they made a decision in which it might get them ousted by a portion, even a small portion of their own base, their own electorate, that means it's career suicide, even though some form of reform might produce a net benefit for society. Because let's face it, society and government, and society and the politicians are two totally different bodies, and we see that happening a lot. It seems to me like it's the pendulum swinging the opposite direction from communism to what's the opposite of libertarianism? Like authoritarianism. Yeah. So, you know, it's muddy waters, and it's stuff that, again, I believe that free speech is the greatest thing that we have and should have in the Western world, because it allows us to sit down and talk about these issues, because it may happen here. It may happen in our parliament. It may happen in your Congress, wherever it may happen. It will happen because people are talking about problems, and a solution might an almost magical wand solution to fix a problem overnight might come because people were talking about it. People from different spectrums, the diversity of thought. But anyway, back to the core of this. Good on them, and I'm really happy that the election went in a positive way, because now you have the communists. Your Jess Phillips's and all these people in the Labour Party scrambling, realizing, hey, we can't go that far left, and we can't keep going this way. I have a feeling that the Jess Phillips of the world of politics aren't going to learn from their mistakes, because communists never do.
Yeah, well,
but it might awaken the electorate a little bit.
They're not gonna go back to this, I guess, center left. They're not gonna go. They're gonna keep going left and left. That's just.
I might say we might get surprised, because as it says here in this BBC article, and it's BBC, so take it for what you will, but you have certain potential candidates for the leadership of the Labour Party, like, excuse me, Jesus, Sir Keir Starmer. Excuse me, he was pro-Brexit, and a couple of these, I think it was Rayner. No, it wasn't her. Fuck Jess Phillips, Emily Foxberry. Unfortunately, I don't know most of these except for Phillips and Starmer. Their parties are a little bit more diverse in their policy and thought than even here or in your country, in the United States.
Well, the thing is, can you tell the difference between the Green Party of the UK and the Labour Party anymore? You really can't.
Aside from the number of seats?
Yeah, that's what I mean. They philosophically, they're pretty much so close to each other now.
Excuse me. Yeah, I've made the case on previous streams as well that I had a brain fart. Oh, right. That policies that are normally not really partisan get latched onto by partisan politicking and made a case for said group. One relative case that you would probably understand is gun rights in your country, the Second Amendment. I know of a lot of actual liberals, might be Democrats, might vote Republican, doesn't really matter, but they are in favor of the second. However, if you look at your politicians, that doesn't seem to be the case as far as, you know, the overall narrative of the party. So it's really weird how, you know, let's say the majority of Democrats are now anti-gun, when that is not representative of their electorate.
See, the thing,
weird situation.
The Democrats they would do whatever panders to the media class, not the working class.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit about us. We are just voters to them, like a numbers for them to win, and they are. They get
like Instagram influencers. All that matters is the numbers.
They get their policy ideas from stupid shit like the Hollywood types and the billionaires that.
Well, I think you said it perfectly the first time around. The media class,
right?
Yeah, I definitely see that, and it seems like it's a huge juxtaposition because for a long while the Democrats were the party of labor. The party of the working man, whereas the Republicans were more the party of business, corporate America, etc. And those lines have definitely been blurred, because you can look at both parties and say, well, they're both the parties now of some form of ruling class, whether it be corporatocracy or big business or the economy or, you know, any number of things. And none of these things by themselves are a negative or a positive. It's, you know, their stances in which they have good and they have bad. It's a very complex thing.
Well, see, the whole thing about the Democrats, though, this is the reason I would never vote for one, is their policy in the last 30 years. I mean, it's just going back to Jimmy Carter.
Yeah,
have been basically to tear down what we are as a country, like.
Oh yeah, claw away at the Constitution, at states' rights, at all sorts of things. Yeah. And that's what kind of inspired me to pay more attention to your guys' politics.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, Congress right now, they have been slowly giving away their power since the end
to the executive branch, right?
Yeah, the executive branch since basically World War II. And the end of World War II. You know, like, the Vietnam War shouldn't have never been a war, but basically they gave the president the ability to bomb the living shit out of it and start a war, and call it a police action or whatever. You know, name one country that we've fought in the last couple of decades that Congress never fucking declared war or voted for anything like that. But that power has been basically transferred to the president via the I forgot which act was.
Patriot Act?
No, War Powers Act.
Oh, the War Powers Act. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then
I mean, they both effectively have the same, you know, same modus operandi in that they are trying to gather more and more power to fewer and fewer people, because the executive branch is pretty much the president and his cabinet. That you can't get any smaller in a government body. And it's funny because it's really not really a partisan thing. It's not a policy of left or right in your country, or of Democrat or Republican. Both parties are equally responsible in handing this power over.
Yep.
And it does scare me. It really does, because we're your neighbors. We're one of your biggest trading partners. We've been huge allies since the biggest solidifying marker, was World War I, where we became, we're literally attached at the hip. So we're basically in the country sense, we're conjoined twins. You just happen to be the bigger, stronger brother, and we're just kind of like the the guy who goes along with it all.
The problem with all politicians is like they're self-serving. They don't want to do their fucking job, so they give their powers off to an executive branch that the president should have never had this much power. Period. He is technically, his only job is to sign the law, enforce the law, and basically deal with inner politics of the Senate, and and appoint. He has other jobs like appointing judges and stuff and all that, but he's not supposed to be the guy be like, oh hey, Afghanistan, you are hosting the Taliban, and the Taliban are one of the people that helped the 9/11. We're gonna bomb the living shit out of you. But Congress is supposed to, if you're doing that kind of stuff, you're supposed to go to Congress and declare war, not do this bullshit. Yeah,
it's something that us as Canadians look at you guys and say we like our parliamentary system. However, some things need to change, like the representation for the different provinces. But more so, we envy your checks and balances from the three branches of government. There's supposed to be those checks and balances for very good reason, so that you can't consolidate power between one branch over another. And so that, like you're saying, going to war has to be, signed off by Congress and then signed off by the president. Right. That's two branches that have to come together and agree that war were declared.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there is one silver lining to all this, right? If they wanted to, they can claw all that power back. Period.
Yep.
All you gotta do is pass basically a law that revokes the War Power Act. The thing is, the only tricky part about that is they would have to pass a law on a veto majority, so 60 votes instead of 51.
Yeah, and that is not likely to happen, but it could.
Yeah, it could. I mean, they can take all that power back. It's just they haven't, because they're fucking lazy shit bags.
Yeah, they're do-nothings. Yeah. A lot of them are do-nothings, and it does worry me. But you're right. There is a potential silver lining to it. And getting to our next article, because it's very relevant to what we're going through, is I'm sure you've heard of the Virginia National Guard response after Democratic lawmakers suggest it may be needed to enforce gun control measures.
Not going to happen.
No. But it is a little bit of a scary sort of saber rattling between a Democratic lawmaker at the states level versus municipal governing. Because we have stories of the one sheriff who deputized the 15,000 people in his region, under his protection, so that they then become law enforcement, and you can't take away their guns. Something like this, it probably won't ever happen, but the saber rattling, it's nonsensical. This to me, as an outsider looking in, I see that as a threat. Not foreign, but domestic, and for the legislator, who is it, McEachen, the Democrat from Virginia, and Ralph Northam, saying may have to nationalize the National Guard to enforce the law, comes as dozens of counties across Virginia have declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries after Democrats took over the state legislature last election. God. That is a clear and present example that could have very severe repercussions.
That's a threat.
Yeah, that is a threat. McEachern is now a threat to America and what America stands for, because he's literally threatening the populace, the electorate, the people, with military action.
No, look. the National Guard, I guarantee you, will not follow his order.
No, they won't, because they're people.
They're the citizens of that state.
Are they really going to turn their guns on their brothers and sisters and neighbors and cousins? No, fuck no. They'd be more likely to turn around and point their guns back at McEachern.
Well, the thing is, they
what the fuck his name is.
It's unconstitutional, first of all.
Of course.
State law does not supersede the Second Amendment, period, no matter what. This is going to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court would be like 9-0.
They'll laugh at them. Yeah, they'll laugh at them.
I'd be like, look, you cannot take away somebody's possession, first of all. I don't care how much you pay. You can pay me $1 billion for my AR-15. If I'm unwilling to give it up,
you can't take it.
You can't take it. It's my fucking personal property. And this is my biggest problem with Democrats. They are trying this all over the United States, and there's more of us that are people don't realize. People like me that used to be in the military, we still know how to fucking shoot.
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna forget.
Yeah, and come at me with that shit. I mean, I don't personally own a gun now, but if they start doing this shit, you know what? I will stand with the people, and I'm not standing with the government. Hell no.
And here's the other thing too. Like, this is something that I pointed out multiple times. They could get rid of all the guns as much as they want to. They're not going to get rid of the people who still know how to make them.
Right.
Because
they're not going to get rid of the bad guys with guns that aren't legal guns.
That's just it. Like, you take away all the guns, you know what? They're just going to learn how to make them.
No,
there are still kids who know how to make bombs at home.
The problem is, like, people don't realize also, like, the Democrats wants to disarm the people who own guns legally, not deal with the illegal gun ownership by freaking felons and criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's how stupid are you? You think a criminal will follow your law that you pass to confiscate guns that are illegally owned?
Well, by definition, no, they're criminals.
Right. I'm like, how stupid are you? Are you so stupid as a party that you're willing to die on this molehill?
Yes, they are.
Some of them
are.
Well,
no, they live in gated communities. They don't actually have to worry about things like death. You know, they can let just the little people like you and I die because, well, you know.
Literally, preaching from their ivory towers. Elwin brings up a good question regarding gun control outside of the SJW. Does anyone know if the people for gun control are suburban, non-inner city victims of gun violence? Note I didn't say SJWs, is the just protest to protest. Well, see, the thing is, and I've spoken about this before with policing, if you live in a major metropolis, the chances of getting a quicker police response is good. Should something more than just a back alley sort of act of violence happen. People in suburban areas, rural areas especially, don't have that luxury. I lived out in rural Canada for many, many years. If I didn't have my weapons, I would be at the mercy of the environment, from animals, from poachers, from people who would do me harm, criminals. Yeah. But because there's that knowledge that most people in rural Canada do own firearms for their own protection, there's very little to no crime on that level there. Were you going to say, Cryptic?
No, you're good.
So what I'm saying, like, look, people don't realize all these liberals say, why do you need these rifles and all these weapons for hunting? I was like, well, the Second Amendment wasn't about hunting, you idiots.
Well, first of all, I would say, fuck you, the law says so.
Right. Well, I mean,
our Constitution, our most sacrosanct document says so. So immediately fuck off. But yeah, I follow you. If you want to get more into detail about it, yes, there are a multitude of reasons.
Right. One of them is a tyrannical government. And guess what is going to happen? What Virginia is doing. This is at state level, sure, but it was meant for a federal level. We just ended a war with the Great Britain. And before the war started, you know what they did to the citizens of the colonies? They disarmed them.
Yep.
So they were at the area where they were controlled. The colonies that were
under British rule. Yeah.
Rule, yeah. They disarmed them. They're like, you're not getting the weapon. And then people they hid their muskets and their rifles. And that's the reason why it's number 2 in the Bill of Rights.
Sure. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who say it is so that you can ensure the First Amendment.
Yep. You can't have one without two. You can't have two without one.
Yeah, so they really do go hand in hand. And I've said it before. I've said it 1,000 times. You have 2 basic rights as human beings, or should and should be protected by your government. The right to speech. No one should be able to stop you from speaking, whether it's running out into the middle of the street and ranting and raving about your crazy ideas, or getting onto a podcast like this and just speaking your mind. You have that right. And the second is the right to defend your personhood. You, and to your extent, your family. You have the right to defend yourself, whether it be the environment, wilderness, or other people who would do wrong to you. And that includes the government. Yeah. And it's always boggled my mind that the United States is the only Western nation, first world nation, that codifies these rights and says, no, you cannot infringe on people's rights. End of story.
The all rights are the Bill of Rights is not to give us all rights, and people get that wrong all the time.
Yeah.
It's to prevent the government from suppressing all right.
Shall not infringe. Yes.
Shall not infringe. That's the key word, is shall not infringe. Like, all rights is given to us by if you're religious, your creator. Yep. Or if you're not religious, by your natural rights. Your natural rights. And the government of the United States aren't allowed to do this, and this. And any rights that is not given to you, any power is not given to you. I'm not rights. Any power is not given to you from us as citizen shall not be laws should not be created to restrict that. I mean that's literally
what's colloquially known as positive rights,
right? And the states' rights too, like all states. Yeah. Any laws that any rules and laws that the states create, and there's no federal equivalent. The state law supersedes anything. Yeah. But the federal government has, let's say, First Amendment. That's why the First Amendment is universal. That's why states can't restrict it. The Second Amendment is in the U.S. Constitution at the federal level. That's why states cannot restrict it. And there's been Supreme Court cases where, like in Chicago, they weren't allowed to even have handguns. Mm-hmm. And Washington, D.C. also. And the Supreme Court struck that down. It's like, that's not even at the state level was allowed, the city level, the local level, a municipal level, they were restricting people's rights. And it went to the state. The state, apparently upheld it for some reason. And then it went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court was like, no, you don't have that right as a state.
Yeah, because it's interfering with your federal enshrining of your rights.
Right.
Now, I would say that, on a municipal level, if you want to establish gun-free zones, that's one thing. Like if you want to make sure that nobody, even legal owners carry, and whether you're an open carry state or not, whatever, if you want to ensure that people don't bring their guns into schools, I can understand that. I can get behind that, because we're not infringing. No one's infringing on your right. We're just saying we'd like to keep the guns out of sensitive areas.
Yeah, and every state has that
To an extent, yeah.
Every city in the United States have gun-free zones area, like school or courthouses or stuff like that. So then that's fine. I don't give a shit about that. But if I'm, if I have
a private citizen out in the public,
right,
or at home, nobody has the right to infringe those rights from you, of course.
Right. And I'm more hardcore Second Amendment than most people. I was like, shit, automatic.
I am too, dude, and I'm a fucking liberal. I'm a traditional English style liberal that believes in the individual rights at the core. And I believe that you should have the right. And if that right means that in today's day and age, when the most efficient way to defend yourself from whatever threat, government or a raccoon, right, a gun is the easiest and most efficient way.
I just saw you pull up the Labrador incident thing, but like places like even like Labrador, right? It's desolate in most part, right? Well, not desolate. It's has a lot of wilderness. It has a lot of like you guys in Canada have a lot more wide open wilderness on a wild animal, right?
As Jen said on Bloodwing stream, a lot more room because we're like to stretch out.
Yeah, we like to be spread out.
But if I were to live in that kind of area, goddamn right, I'll get a high caliber rifle. I'm not gonna live in.
That's just it. That's just it. It's not like you're gonna call the cops on the moose when you're out in the middle of nowhere, or the bear or the whatever the fuck is trying to eat you and destroy your day. You don't have somebody to just be like, hey, animal control. You know how you guys usually chase down dogs? It's a little bit bigger than a dog.
Come get this bear. Yeah.
I've had to deal with that in real life. Like, Elwin asks another good question. If Canada, wow. Jesus, sometimes I wonder if I should really be smoking this stuff on stream. I'm smoking the good stuff, CRYPTIC. It's legal up here, all from one end of the nation to the next.
Oh, it's legal in my state too. So
nice. Do you partake?
No.
Okay. Yeah. That's true. I mean, for whatever works for you. If it's not for you, if you like a little bit of the sauce, a little bit of that fire water, all the more power to you. If you like a little bit of the chasing the brown dragon, I'm not going to interfere in your rights to, your body, your choice, my brother.
Well, you funny that you say that, right? My city they didn't decriminalize shrooms. They just said if somebody get caught with it, we're not gonna prosecute them, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how marijuana has been treated the last decade to two here in Toronto. But anyway, sorry, Elwin's question. What happened to it? If Canada was given the chance to own firearms, I think you mean Canadians, should they be restricted to rural areas with lower police response time, hunting, etc., and not allowed suburban areas who have a greater police presence? No. But I think, again, as I was saying, certain areas can be, quote unquote, gun-free zones. And, maybe in big urban areas, major cities, maybe you say that there's no open carry laws. You can still have your guns. You can still go to the range. You can still go out hunting. You can still own them, and you can still use them for self-defense out at home. But I would say maybe have carry laws a little bit more stringent in the urban areas for that very reason. I know I could get into a debate with somebody who's a little bit more pro-gun and saying, well, what's the difference? And, what if I'm out on the street and I want to protect myself? we can make that case, and I'd be completely sympathetic, and I'd like to hear the arguments pro and against. But I think I wouldn't restrict it to rural areas just because rural.
Yeah. Well, another thing also is like women, right? You can't
overpower. The great equalizer.
You can't overpower a man that's 6'5", whatever, 300 pounds. But a gun can.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably like 6 to 8 inches taller than Elwyn, and even on my worst day, I'm a cripple. Even on my worst day, she couldn't overpower me, just physical strength wise.
Yeah,
but if she pulled a gun on me, you're entirely right. That would be the great equalizer. I cannot stop that bullet, no matter, even if I was fucking Bjorn Thorson or whatever, the guy who played the Mountain on Game of Thrones. He's 7'6", literal mountain of muscle. He can't stop a bullet.
Yeah, and the bad part is like a lot of the crimes against women, right, is in the. Yeah, it can be prevented. Well, if either domestic or if they're in like the city, right? It's easier to be safer. In my personal opinion, I mean, people can disagree with me all I want.
Sure.
But if I had a daughter, I would train her how to shoot. I would buy her a gun at 18. Man, look, I'll teach her all the safety rules and all that stuff, and have a license, all that good stuff, and I would be way more confident of her walking around campus.
Yeah. Even if she didn't carry gun, you see, this is another thing that, as a liberal, I think should be incorporated into public education, and why I don't demonize the NRA is that they teach gun safety. They teach gun handling, and these are things that we should be learning. It doesn't matter if you're never going to touch a gun in your entire life. Learn what they are. Learn how to use them. We're taught that in school about cars. We're taught that in school about a multitude of things that could potentially be dangerous. So why not guns? It doesn't matter if you're never going to drive. You still have to have a base understanding what the rules of the road are, because you're going to be out there as a pedestrian. As a pedestrian. What if, hypothetically, Cryptic, your 18-year-old daughter is walking down the street and she sees a gun on the sidewalk?
Yeah, she should know how to disarm it.
She wouldn't know how to even approach it.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't know how to, just by looking at it, is the safety on? Is it chambered? Is it cocked? All these different factors that if she had even a base knowledge of the owning and operation and safety protocols around firearms, she would be infinitely more safe than if she was completely ignorant and goes, and she might not be thinking, she might be thinking, hey, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to call the police. And, God forbid, next thing you know, accidental discharge. The gun was cocked. The hammer was cocked. It went off as she was picking it up. Might not even hit herself. Might hit another bystander or, somebody's dog. All these things. It's just better safe than sorry. It's like having a condom. I'd rather have one and not need one than need one and not have one.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's a parody of the joke, with guns. I'd rather have one and not need one than need one and not have one. So I think education, above all else, coming back full circle to our education debate, I think that's one of the key lessons that we're not teaching kids, alongside things like actual home economics, like taxes. These are key fundamental things to living life in the modern era that we need to disseminate that information, and people need to learn.
Or even cooking, for God's sakes, learn how to make something basic.
They don't even teach that in home economics, really.
I've only dated two women in the last 10 years, right, that know how to cook. And I'm dead serious. It's like,
and for all the ladies out there, Cryptic is a player.
No, I have never in my life met so many people that can't cook. I mean, I had one that constantly tried to feed me because I was a skinny bastard back then. But she knew how to cook. But since then, I've only met one other one. She was crazy shit, but she knew how to cook.
Right.
But everybody else don't know how to cook. I'm just like, she's like, oh, it's like.
As someone who's been in the industry and who's been a chef for almost 2 decades, the split in the kitchen, regardless of your status in the kitchen, whether you're head chef or just a lowly, cook, line cook or something, the gender split has always been more or less equal. However, it seemed more that men, because of their pardon the pun, hunger for success and that drive to succeed, were more likely to be a head chef. Like your head chef is more likely to be a man than a woman. But I think overall in the broader society of things, I agree with you. Not too many men know how to cook, even though it has actually been traditionally, the culinary arts has been traditionally, since its inception, more male dominated. However, biologically, primal human beings, it's been the women, because they stayed at home all day looking after the kids, preparing food and whatever, while the men were literally out fighting, hunting, fishing, hunting and gathering, basically. So it's an interesting juxtaposition how
there's a long
luckily Elwyn
there's a long history of kitchen work being a mix between men and women. Like there's always been room for both sexes to have their own thing.
Oh yeah.
It's just that like it was really more based off of what you could really do, because there's not a lot in the kitchen that a female can't do that a male does do.
Yeah.
It's just when it came to things like carving the animals, stuff like that, it was generally traditionally the man's job to do it. Like it's
because I hate to use the term, but it really was the home unit was a patriarchy.
Yeah.
Because and we're talking earlier man, not modern man. The women who were at home with the children, with the tribe, with the society, the village, what have you, weren't as experienced in the world. So they deferred to men to be the leaders because they were more, quote unquote, worldly. They were more experienced out in the wilds of America or Canada, or wherever you live.
Well, it's not so much that. Like if you come out in the middle of nowhere and the only people you have as physical bodies are your family, and say you have more females in your family than males, chances are really good you're going to give those females more male jobs to begin with, because you just don't have the bodies.
As somebody who's worked on a farm, there really wasn't any difference between male and female jobs.
No.
At the end of the day, there really wasn't, aside from physical limitations. So tossing bales of hay was typically only the guys, because we had the upper body strength to do it.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say the women didn't try to make a joke of it. I don't doubt that they didn't. And there's probably the odd woman who had no problems with it. But overall, that's rare. It's rare. It is rare for a woman to have the body structure for that kind of strength. But you're also looking at a planet with 9 billion people on the planet. So you're going to have more women like that now. But I guarantee you that 95% of the population that's female can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I'm probably being a little bit racist saying this, but like the difference is if you're a woman living in Africa, okay? And I'm not saying that to be racist. I'm just saying that they start off so young, carrying shit that you wouldn't believe. And you do that for a couple 100,000 years. Yes, their women are going to be a little bit structured for it.
Sure. Yeah.
And our women here, we haven't had to do that in a really long time. Like if you really look at the last couple 100 years, even though it didn't have as much as we do right currently, life in the West was really good for the last 200 years, regardless of what the SJW say.
For women, yeah.
Regardless of what they say, the life expectancy was still a hell of a lot better than it used to be. And we were treated better. Like a lot of people who came to the US, we were fleeing the kings and queens because they treated everybody like shit.
Monarchistic tyranny, yeah.
So I can understand, migrants who want to flee poverty, like I kind of understand that, but it's not the solution to the problem. It's not. The solution to the problem is the fact that we fucked up when we set up the UN. Because if we had set up the UN properly in the first place, instead of sending people to other countries to fix problems, they would stop sending money to their governments and keep a hold of that money and watch where it's directed.
Yeah, well, the UN was the second try. The League of Nations was the first one.
Yeah, it just failed. It just failed because they didn't stick to it. You know, if you know that there are certain countries that have a repeated problem of dictators, like some of the worst ones in Africa, as my example, stop giving them money. Until they understand that they can't have that money until they learn to hire the right people.
Oh yeah, totally. You Jen, you know my policy with China. I don't think that any Western nation should be so much as even trading with them until literal human rights violations practices are being stopped.
Yep.
We should embark. We not blockade them as a country, but cut off all ties. Say, we're not going to take your products. We're not going to sell you our products. Economies be damned, because human rights are more important than a dollar figure. We don't care. The United States, Canada, to a much lesser extent, Britain, we can be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
We have the natural resources, we have the space, the land, the know-how to make our own food and be self-sufficient. The reason why we have such trade is because, every so often I do want to have some black fungus mushroom, Every so often I do want some kimchi. I do want those exotic flavors. Just as an example, I do want to watch Dragon Ball Z. I do want to watch an export from a different country, but at the same time, again, I don't want it to come at the cost of other people. But we've been harping on this kind of stuff for quite a while now, so let's shift it back over to Canada. And this got me so angry. So in Newfoundland and Labrador, two men were fired from their jobs, and a contractor was turfed as fallout from racist incident on Labrador flight continues. It wasn't racist, so first of all, fuck off with that nonsense, CBC. Owner of Cannuck Enterprises says actions of two men do not reflect the values of him or his company. To give you an idea what happened, two men are at the center of a storm of a controversy over a racist, again, it's not racist, on board a PAL Airlines flight this week have been fired. Their employer has also been evicted from a Nalcor energy job site in Churchill Falls. This disgusts me. This mob mentality court of public opinion that, I mean, if we had freedom of speech laws up here, this couldn't have happened. I hope they take it to the Human Rights Tribunal. I really do. So basically what had happened was these two guys, they were, give you the gist of it. They were on a flight, and as they were boarding, they were tipsy. They had a few beers. They're rural Canadians. They're salt of the earth, laborers. You're working man. That doesn't excuse outward racism, but they called somebody Inuit and Eskimo.
Oh no, they're going to die now. Don't you know? They're going to starve themselves to death.
Like, that's so ridiculous. It's like if I were to call somebody, and I've this has actually happened to me. I called somebody, or I assumed that somebody was African. And he said, "Well, actually, I'm from, my ethnicity's from Jamaica." I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and he was like, "No problem." I could tell that he meant, this color skin comes from the two basic places. Yeah, it's fine. No, you didn't cross anything. There was a little bit of snarky. They said that they were snickering and laughing to themselves. Somebody overheard one of them say that she smells, and I'm like, okay, so if somebody smells, you can't criticize them, A, because they're white, and B, because the person they're criticizing is not white. This is where we're heading. This is why it was so, it gets under my skin and makes me so angry, because it is just part of this anti-white bigotry that is seemed to be sprouting up with communism. It seems to be
it's far leftism. Like it's
they're adopting communism. They're adopting fuck white people, because who are the mass majority in the West?
White people.
White people. Yeah.
Well,
and even white people is a misnomer. Me as a white person is very different from Elowin as a white person, who's very different from you as a white person, Jen, who's very different from, Monkey as a white person, from Sargon, who's a white person. These are all very different white people.
Well, that would require that they acknowledge that we're individuals, and that's the problem. Is they want to act like everybody that's a person of color is an individual. But let's be real. Let's be real. They are what they think we are, because when they say brown people, who the hell are they referring to? Because the last time I checked, the majority of the world
minorities,
is different, varying shades of brown.
No, people with white, quote unquote white skin are the global minority.
It's
so when they say minority in their country, in their own country, what they're saying is non-white people. Anybody who's not visibly white. And even me, I'm mostly of Middle Eastern Arab descent. I look very, very white. Thanks, Mom. So when people are like, oh, well, you just have white privilege, and talk about white privilege and literally call me, a white supremacist or a white nationalist, I'm like, I'm part Ashkenazi Jew and part fucking Arab. So would you like to tell me what part of me exactly is white? I am more of a mutt than that, but those are the predominant genes that make me up.
So I'm just going to say it flat out, and I'm grateful that there's probably no Italians or people from Spain in our channel watching right now. But let's be real. I've never once considered them white. Closer to white, but I've never really considered them white, because
they have your white privilege, Jen.
Because they have an olive tone, and because they're the Mediterranean. And anybody who's done any basic research of history knows that the Mediterranean was Roman and Greek. And
you know what? The Chinese, the Japanese, the Viets, the Thais, they probably say the same thing about South Americans.
Yeah.
Genealogically, they come from the same pool. One has just changed over so many generations to be something completely different.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that core gene, the Mongoloid genes, are what make up.
I'll be right back again. Sorry.
Sure. And a perfect example of this, CRYPTIC. I know you were there listening to that whole Covington kids thing. Yeah. Nobody was talking about the Black Hebrew Israelites. Nobody was talking about the actual racism going on that was recorded in that full video that was released. Everybody was talking about the fuck white non-racism. And call it what it is. This is not reverse racism. It is racism.
Yeah, well, the Black Israelite attacked the Jewish temple, right?
I have that story, actually. Yeah. There have been some updates. And I hate Chrome sometimes, because it likes to put my tabs on like a hibernated state. Jersey
Jarring new surveillance video.
We'll play the surveillance video because it's pretty. Man, it's rough stuff, CRYPTIC. When this shit was actually going down, I was listening to a stream in which they were listening to the police scanner. And again, I cannot give enough props to the police for their professionalism and their efficiency and their responses when shit like this goes down. This is why when the Bernie Sanders of the world saying the militarization of the police, well, you know what? When criminals can can literally on the black market get a Barrett 50 cal or, you know, a Browning machine gun or an AK-47, then yeah, the police need to have the tools at the ready to deal with that. Jersey City shooters fueled by hatred of Jewish people and law enforcement, state attorney general says. So obviously, we've covered this a little bit before, but it does seem that more information is coming to light about the two people, David N. Anderson and Francine Graham, were motivated by actual, you know, hate crime sort of notions. And as you say, they were both parts of the Black Hebrew Israelites movement. And typically, I would say you can't judge an entire group of people on a couple bad apples. But no, the Black Hebrew Israelites are a hate group. They are no better than and no real different than the KKK as far as their philosophy goes, and groups like that, like neo-Nazis. These are people whose entire core beliefs are based on hatred of the other. And in this case, Jewish people police the institutions.
And white people too.
Oh, especially white people. So from the last time we covered it, it was found out that there were pipe bombs in the U-Haul that they drove to the scene. I'm going to play some of the footage. I'm going to turn down the volume because it's probably a little loud.
Shows the moment when two suspects got out of their van.
There's the U-Haul.
Firing at the JC
literally just walks up,
Jersey
gun
City.
pulled, bystanders just
Dramatic new
standing
accounts,
there,
authorities
just
described
starts
the
unloading
assault
on the
almost
innocent
step
people
by
standing
step.
there.
Officials believe the suspects first
Unfortunately,
killed
we had one
Joseph
officer
Seals at the
killed,
Bayview
2 others
Cemetery,
injured.
Then drove their white U-Haul van about a mile to the supermarket. At 12:21
And then,
p.m.
went to the
on Tuesday, they say, the perpetrators, identified tonight as 47-year-old David N. Anderson and 50-year-old Francine Graham, parked directly across the street from the kosher store.
And I'm just going to mute it, but let it going. Yeah, the most egregious part of this, or most sensitive part of this for me, is that where they ended up at that bodega, the Jewish-owned bodega, where the standoff with the police happened. After this, what we're seeing now on screen, where they drove about a mile away to this bodega that we're now seeing on screen, a junior school. I believe it started at K-6 or whatever, grade 6, was right across the street. So it was especially a tentative situation because, you know, this is my personal belief. I've covered this before on stream, Cryptic, is that the only protected class that we should have in the Western world is children. Children are the only people that society actually needs to go out of its way to protect.
Yeah, you know,
no, they were black, Elwin. They were black. And again, another narrative, overarching narrative of the whole thing, something I will downright say is a conspiracy, is, you know, we will not outright say it unless they are white people. TYT, the fucking MSNBC, CNN, if these people were white, they'd have their pictures plastered every fucking where for that news cycle.
Well, if you go through the CNN article, they don't mention the race. If you go to Washington Post, Washington Times,
this is CNN, what we have pulled up here. Yeah. Not once do they mention the fact that they are black. Yep. They just say that they are part of the Black Hebrew Israelites. And oh my God, fuck you, CNN. You know, they'll give an account of the weapons, you know, and 9mm Glock 17, 9mm Ruger semi-automatic, a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun, an AR-15 style weapon. There's no such thing as an AR-15 style fucking weapon. You will give us the caliber and the name, the manufacturer of the gun for all the other 3. But an AR-15 style weapon, fuck you, CNN. Fuck you up the ass. I hope you fucking all just I hope the entire company fucking crashes down around you for the shit you pull. It's little things like that, the overarching, the constant lies, the constant partisan narratives. Sure, that's one thing. It's the little things like that really irk me, because you think you're so fucking clever. Who did this article? Madeline Holcomb. fuck you. Fuck you. Can I say it enough? Like, fuck you. And this is coming from your neighbors to the north who look at you, CNN, and even we see you as an even bigger joke than our own PM. Like, take off.
CNN
well, they are a bigger joke because they didn't accept underhanded government money the way ours did and get blatantly caught doing it and then get away with it scot-free. So, yeah, they are worse than we are.
No, the problem with CNN is they are corporate shows that that's all they are. I mean,
yeah, and I'm kind of we're in a dilemma up here, Cryptic, because yes, the oh my god, excuse me,
CBC
down there, the majority of your corporate your mainstream media is left leaning.
Yes,
the bigger ones, CNN, MSNBC, very New York Times, very, very left leaning, more so than most. And it's bought and paid for by private special interests. Here, it's bought and paid for by the government. So our Liberal Party, who are more communist than anything, well, actually socialist. Let's be more precise in our wording. They're a lot they rely heavily more on being socialist than communists. They literally will hand out a $616 million bribe to broadcasters, with no overt saying, "Hey, treat us well when you report on us." But we can see the narratives play out. So to me, it's kind of well, would I rather have special interests doing that, or would I rather have the government? Ultimately, I think special interests, because however you want to spend your money, good. Because as you said at the beginning, Cryptic, the government is so inefficient. Yes, I do believe that maybe we should have a state-funded broadcaster, but there should be checks and balances in place to make sure that they are operating ethically and as unpartisan as possible. Bipartisan as possible. Like Jen, what we've said before on our views on the news. You should be there to report on the events. That's it. That's it. If you want to have, your Tucker Carlsons, your Joe Scarboroughs talking about their editorials on subjects, sure. Make it clear these are editorials. These are people talking about the things. But when you're reporting on things, when you're actually breaking news stories and talking about events like they do in this article, it should. Because there's no, it just says by these people. It doesn't say it's editorial or anything. So stop editorializing. It's the same problem that's going on with social media, like YouTube. You have these 230 protections, but you're acting as a curator. You're literally curating content and creating policy to subvert the laws on the books.
So we don't technically have a government-funded, I guess,
broadcaster.
No,
you have public PBS.
Yeah, we have PBS.
Purely public. I mean, which again, sure.
But like, we don't have like a mega corporation like the CBC in Canada, right? That the only way it's alive is because it's funded by the government. Same thing with the BBC.
Yeah,
we don't have that, and it's unfortunate that they craft a narrative, for the government, which seems a bit, what's kind of totalitarian, because they can craft their own narrative.
Right. And funny enough, how I bring up this picture of Bernie Sanders, who wants to be the ultimate totalitarian and have the government decide everything you do, from whether or not you can have an abortion or own a gun to what you can eat for breakfast in the morning. They want to control your every aspect of your fucking life. And again, I just have to give him a big middle finger and say, fuck you.
Yeah.
To those types of people. Just another article. I don't know why it's showing Sanders. I guess they're probably, oh no, it's to a different article. But it's, of course, they're already starting with the spin articles of, for those who knew the New Jersey shooter Francine Graham, deadly rampage brings total shock. have you heard of the Black Hebrew Israelites before? I'm sure you have. You probably just didn't care because black. Bleep. And there's a picture of this fine, upstanding looking individual. Domestic terrorism is so much harder than foreign terrorism, but I mean, it's just there's David Anderson. I'm really surprised that CNN, like, look at how small these pictures are. First of all, I'm surprised CNN actually put their pictures up, but secondly, I mean, look at how small they are. Really. And look, even another minority was killed by these guys. You know, when you act this irrationally and this violent and have so much hate in your heart, you're going to end up doing harm to people that, you know, putting myself in their shoes for just a moment. You know, yeah, you want to kill white people, you want to kill Jews, you want to kill the authorities, but you're killing somebody who's another minority who would in some forms, you know, be on your side with some things. I don't know the guy's personal politics, but, you know, there does seem to be this growing narrative of, you know, we the minority. Anyway, I don't want to assume things. I'm starting to talk out of my ass. The FBI, they're getting involved, of course. They've been involved since the events were going down, but you know, they've started going through the townhouse complex where they live and all that kind of stuff, and they're, you know, more will be coming out. It's just unfortunate unfortunate stuff, because I'd rather have your typical, God, I hate even saying this, because I'd rather not any of this violence happen. But I would rather somebody just be mentally disturbed and shooting people for no real discernible good justification than people who think that they feel justified because something immutable like race.
Yeah.
You know what? I think we need a feel-good story. What do you think, guys? We've been talking on some deep issues. We've been sort of, you know, getting down the rabbit holes of some things. I think we should bring the spirits up a little bit. And this is such a wonderful story because this little miracle child was born with only 2% of his brain.
Aww.
I'm probably going to mute it because this is a full-on documentary. So I'm just going to skip through a few things. So yeah, when he was born, there we go. As you can see, there's a whole lot of stuff missing in that scan. I don't know how many people can, you know, read scans, but there's his brain. That if anybody's seen a scan of a brain, it's, you know, in your head, it's there. But what's so amazing about this story is that eventually this kid, what makes him a miracle child is that his brain grew. Like,
it was big even afterwards.
Yeah. Outside of the womb, as he's developing as a child, his brain is growing. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this scan. His brain grew to normal size. And he does have mental problems because obviously there are going to be issues when you don't develop normally. And normal is not a bad word. Come on. Just for anybody who might be listening to this and, you know, being a little touchy, it's not normally normal. They're just differently abled. Well, no, they're not normal. Normal is not a bad word. Let's get over ourselves. But when normal development in many different ways goes awry and things out of the norm happen, yes, there's going to be long-lasting repercussions because it's not part of the normal development. But you know, I hadn't gotten that far into the story. He may not be able to have a completely normal life.
Yeah.
But he's going to have some semblance of a life. Like, look at him. He looks happy. He looks alert, aware. He's communicative. I don't know if he's verbal yet, but he is communicative. He is doing well. He's showing emotion. He's showing that he can, in some capacity, have a life for himself. So this is just amazing. It's truly amazing what the human body is capable of. And like, look at this kid smile. I hate kids normally. I shouldn't say that, but I don't hate kids, but I hate it when people go on and on about their kids. It's just annoying. Okay, great. You have kids, the greatest kids in the world for you. Get over yourself. But it's just such oh yeah, he is verbal. Look, he's talking. It's just such a wonderful story. Really gives me hope for some things in this world. This kid is so fucking crazy. And he's become a medical marvel. Like, this is something that's because of the advances in medical technology, being able to stabilize him post utero, and allow him a safe environment so that his brain can develop. It's fucking crazy, man. That stuff like really gets to me. Really makes me just like, oh man, that's so fucking cool.
No, it's good that he's doing well too. It's one of those things where like the human brain does develop outside of the womb. Like it's they've always known that it still does.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're technically born early in comparison to other species.
Yeah. And I mean, we can go down the whole rabbit hole of why all this stuff happens, because, unlike wildlife, we have protectors, we have a family unit to allow us to mature. That's why our maturing process is so lengthy. We're talking 20 years. And as I love my kids. I probably wouldn't be that annoying dad, Elwin, but I would be a good dad. And then, oh man, another really sort of feel good story, Canadiana kind of story. And by the way, that kid, Canadian, huge medical developments up here. Go us! Even though it's a socialized healthcare system, we still have a lot. We do contribute quite a bit. Not as much as the United States, of course. I will never say we are, better or we do more. We just simply can't. We don't have the numbers. But we do make plenty of innovations. We contribute to the world stage, and that's a great. But this piece, CRYPTIC is probably going to be what's going on.
Oh, I know who I knew. I actually love hockey, but to one point though.
Sure. I tend to go on CRYPTIC, so at any point you want to just get in there, just start talking. I'll let you talk.
Well, you might have contributed to the world, but you gave us Justin Trudeau, so screw you.
That was his mom. He wouldn't bitch at anybody. Bitch at her for not swallowing.
Yeah.
Well, no, I would bitch at Fidel Castro for knocking her up. So
we also gave you Bill Shatner and Mike Myers.
I'll take William Shatner. I'll take him. But you also gave us Jim Carrey.
Anyway,
so.
Yeah, but Jim Carrey is a comedic genius. He kind of just went a little off the deep end with he got absorbed in that California elite bubble of just putting fucking jizz on your face and goop.
You could blame us for Jim Carrey, but you can't blame us for what happened to him when he lived in California. That was
Jenny McCarthy. She's an American.
Yeah.
That's great that you love hockey. But this is another, sort of just feel good story about Canadiana, a little slice of Canadiana. Young Wayne Gretzky gets Tim Hortons autograph in new ad based on a true story. And it is kind of a tearjerker. I'm not going to play it because it's kind of a long ad. And but long story short, most Canadians kind of know the story. Wayne Gretzky, arguably one of the best singular hockey players to date. As a child, got a autograph from his hero at the time, Tim Horton, who the famous chain is named after, because he was also a great hockey player. And it reenacts some of the scenes from Wayne's own accounting of his interaction with Tim. and it's a cute little, you know, piece of Canadiana, and I like how, you know, it gives me hope sometimes, Jen, for our advertising system, because we still do play on the heartstrings, but we don't do it in that evil corporatist way a lot of the time. We do it in our sappy Canadian kind of, we're proud to be Canadian. Like everybody knows the Molson Canadian I am Canadian ad. I fucking hate their beer, but I love that ad. It tugs at the right heartstrings. It makes you proud that you're Canadian, but it doesn't make you want to be a Canadian, you know, like supremacist kind of way. But it's just another cute little piece of stuff going on. You a fan of Star Wars there, Cryptic?
The first 3 movies, not the sequel.
So you are a real fan.
Yeah.
This is a safe space. We understand that there's been some trauma that has happened to what I would call the original fandom. The original, I don't even like the word fandom, but the original the people who appreciated Star Wars for what it was. I like to have a little segment where we cover something in the realm of Star Wars. This one's a little bit more on the side of Star Wars, because, you know, again, coming full circle back to, you know, the communists, the social justice far left, who insipidly want to take over intellectual properties that aren't theirs because they're too devoid of any sort of intellectual dexterity to create their own properties, that they have to change Thor into a woman or make, you know, the lead role in Star Wars a Mary Sue, and, you know, give us all this bullshit narratives. I'm gonna play it's just a quick video about Ryan Johnson. Ryan Soy Boy John, like, doesn't he have that kind of face that you just want to punch?
Yeah.
And as we play the video, his laugh, oh my God, I want to throttle the man. But not only that, he ruined Star Wars. JJ started ruining Star Wars. Ryan drove it off the cliff.
Yeah. Yeah, he was supposed to save the franchise, and then he failed.
I don't think he was ever supposed to, like, maybe to Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, he was supposed to save Star Wars, but I don't think he had the capability to do it. Like I've said before, I think one person, just off the top of my head, that could have saved Star Wars and didn't even have to be, you know, the main writer director, but just sort of a contributing force in the way that guy who did Marvel movies he's doing The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau. Kevin Smith could have saved Star Wars because he's a fan. He knows the industry. He knows how to write a script. Even if he didn't have to write the Star Wars script, he would know how to take that and listen to other people and create a good product, a good story, and set it in the Star Wars universe. Without further ado, guys, yes, Alex, that was a little poke at you. I'm going to play the video. And
you are, but if you could
do a spin-off,
any
what would he do in Star Wars?
Created in the Star Wars universe.
And first off, I'd say Thelma and Louise, and you're in the starring role. But actually, you know what? Forget the movie and just drive off a fucking cliff.
Really, really good question. I gotta say, like, and I'm not saying that I would do it. Obviously, they're doing disclaimer. The Mandalorian. The full disclaimer: this is not. But I do find Boba Fett fascinating.
What if he doesn't survive?
He's got that kind of like Western, like unknown man behind the mask type thing.
He's no good to me dead.
That the Mandalorian is tapping.
Somehow stands Australian.
The background.
I've been on the press tour so solidly. I've been banking.
So yeah,
episodes.
He talks about that, and I just, you know, obviously my feelings have been known, but what really struck the chord with me with this little IMDb interview was he said he had that Western behind the man behind the mask kind of thing going on. And it's like, retard, that's what Star Wars was about. The Western in space, the hero's journey in space. So why did you turn it into something that it wasn't? You had almost complete control over this movie, but instead you sit back and you go with your stupid fucking soy boy laugh and ruin Star Wars. But yeah, I don't know if you've been watching The Mandalorian, but I can't rant and rave enough about it, Cryptic, for those of us who actually are Star Wars fans, because it does have that Western in space setting, the gravitas, what made Star Wars.
Well, that's probably one of the reasons why I liked Firefly too.
Yeah, Firefly's really good.
Yeah,
I like it.
Too bad it ended only one season, but
yeah, that's what I hear from everybody.
Well, before we get back into some crazy stuff, I got another little piece of interesting news.
Woo.
The first ever dinosaur tail found fully preserved in amber. This is fucking like for someone who, as a kid, loved dinosaurs, kind of kept up with a little, studied a little bit of archaeology, paleontology, this kind of stuff. This is pretty fucking epic because we actually have evidence of dinosaurs not being, for the most part, we actually have physical evidence that they were more avian than just pure reptiles with scales. So you can see that there's feathers. It's the bone itself. You can see in this artist rendition, it's more of a balancing bird tail than a heavy weighted lizard tail.
Yeah, that's kind of been the thing lately, is that they believe that it wasn't like they don't believe at all that the dinosaurs were all lizards. Like they're coming to the conclusion that some of them were probably closer to lizards and some of them were closer to birds. Because all the ones that stand upright have traces of similar like bone structure. Things like that. Whereas like you get to something like, say, a triceratops, and like they're
more akin to a rhino though than they had more lizard. It's theorized that they had more lizard-like skin.
Yes,
but they still are more akin to a rhino. But yeah, and it's also actually weird because when you think about something like a pterodactyl or a pteranodon, they were flighted lizards. They had the scales. They didn't have feathers. They had webbed appendages that allowed them to.
They were more like a bat.
Yeah,
a bat with scales.
Yeah. So it's really this stuff like really gets my blood pumping in a good way. Like going, oh my god, science is favorite dinosaur and why. Oh, geez. I don't know. Guys, do you guys have favorite dinosaurs?
So I play Ark, so I'm a little bit biased.
We've all played Ark.
So if I were to go by dinosaurs that I played with in Ark, I like the Theros the best. I mean, they're a pain to find in the wild because they beat the shit out of them.
And again, a more bird-like dinosaur. Yeah.
Yeah, because they figure they looked like a giant pigeon. Like in terms of like the body structure, like how big they would have been, based off of what skeletons they have, they think it looked like a giant pigeon because they were more puffed out. Like their presence was more of I'm large and I have claws and that's how I scare you off.
Yeah, I'm bringing up some pictures of it now. You can see, human just under 2 meters there. Therizinosaurus is just shy of 6 meters. You can see that they're, more avian-like. Again, they have the feathered body with the more bird-like appendages, the balancing tail as opposed to the weighted tail, sharp talons. There's a little Wolverine version. Another artist rendition. Again, a lot of this stuff is supposition that we have to go on by bones because we haven't found, concrete evidence like we did with this tail. But I agree with you. They're very cool. This one's a little bit more lizard-like. And this one's got the little babies.
Yeah, it's one of those few herbivores where, like, honest to God, even if you were a meat eater, you would think twice to go after this guy.
Oh, you definitely think twice about fucking with him.
You know, like even if it's not in his nature to go out and swing at you, like the ones in Ark aren't. They're not accurate. I don't think they are. I don't think they're nearly as aggressive in that way. But honestly, if a human were to stumble upon them, they'd be like, "You kind of look like a raptor." Boink. You know. But I don't see them running after things when they're pissed off. Like in terms of their body structure, it just wouldn't make sense because they're so big. But they're designed in such a way that they don't have to. Like honestly, you come upon them and they're just like, "Whook."
And you know, I can't really nail it down to any single dinosaur that would be my favorite.
Yeah.
But I can tell you the sort of families of dinosaurs that I like the most, and moreover, why. Things like Ankylosaurus, Triceratops,
yeah,
and those sorts of families, because they're literally walking tanks. They have bone structures and cartilage structures to be able to take punishment and to be armored. And I've always found that fascinating. And even to a lesser extent, something like Pachycephalosaurus, which was a smaller dinosaur, smaller than human, but had that armored crown and the shock absorbers in their spine so that they could, in theory, again, this is all supposition and theory, that in theory, a couple of them could defend themselves against even the larger predators. I don't think they were around at the same time as something like a T-Rex, but just to sort of, you know, use that as some they could defend themselves in a smaller group, like maybe 3 or 4 of them, against a T-Rex, because you know, 1 or 2 of them could smash into that T-Rex's ankle and completely shatter their foot.
They were bone breakers. So yeah, they were absolutely T-Rex killers. And if it wasn't necessarily the species of T-Rex, it's not like T-Rex was the only one of his kind.
Yeah, we're talking about the large, very large, toothy mouthed alpha predators, not apex predators, but alpha predators. Allosaurus, T-Rex, those kinds of guys. Yeah.
And that was always the thing with Ark that pissed me off. Like, not to bring up the game, but it's the biggest dinosaur game that most people know of. But it was always
and it does take a lot from paleontological discovery.
They did the best they could with the research that they did. You know, I mean, you're never going to get a fully accurate game based off of dinosaurs, because every year that comes around, there's new information. But with that game, it was always to do with the sauropods, because like the Bronto is the only one with a real attack, in that it'll get up on its hind legs and crush you. And I'm like, yes, they probably did that, but you know what their biggest weapon was? Their tail. Especially for the I can't remember the name of it, but the one that everyone uses on Ark for travel. That tail was known to break bones. Like it's stiff in all the right areas that make it a whip. And you imagine swinging that at somebody. You're swinging a good sized metal chain link at something. You're gonna snap bones.
Oh yeah.
And they never did it. And it was just like that sauropod is always around the allosaurs, and that's what I mean when they did their research, because the allosaurs were around when those dinosaurs were around, because that's where they find the bones. They're always in and around each other, around water troughs. But like they'll find allosaur skulls that are crushed because they would snap them in the face and boom. Because allosaurs were kind of like, I actually find them more terrifying than a T-Rex, because they hunted in packs, you know, and you're picturing like a Utah raptor the size of a little bit smaller than a T-Rex in a pack, and I'm like, no, thank you.
Anyway, there's a couple more articles I want to really just, we're getting close to the 2 hour mark. I just want to power through a few more articles, and then we can shoot the shit a little bit. First of all, we're going back to politics. An opinion column from the Toronto Sun. Laurie Goldstein, conservatives not ready for prime time. I tend to agree. I like the first quote. Will Rogers, the great American actor, comedian, and journalist, once joked, "I'm not a member of any organized political party. I'm a Democrat." Wow, the difference in meaning back then to today. Hey, Scotty.
Hi, Scotty.
Yeah, he started a stream not too long ago. I popped into his channel to say hi and to drop a like. Support our fellow content creators. Throw you out a wrench there. Excuse me. And imagine what, that sort of joke really has a totally different meaning, even 20 years later, 30 years later.
Yeah.
He could have been talking about Canada's Conservatives in 2019, who knifed their now former leader, Andrew Scheer, in the front and back so many times following the October 21st election that they forced his resignation on Thursday, along with other scandals that, in comparison to other things that our current leader has done, and whatever. Even as Scheer was going out the door, anonymous Conservatives couldn't resist one last plunge of the dagger. They said their party was outraged when it discovered Scheer was secretly using party funds to pay for the private school education of his children. Dustin Van Vught, the party's executive director, responded on the record that Scheer had done nothing wrong, nor was that the reason for his resignation. It didn't help your case. At that point, it didn't really matter. When a politician has already the stink of defeat on them, put there by his own party, any new allegations made against him will follow from stick with Velcro.
I hate to break it to you, buddy, but there are more reasons than just that. And yes,
yeah. Let me quickly finish this. As opposed to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who's made of Teflon. Yeah, of course. Liberals never turned on him despite his repeated ethics violations in the LAV scam, Aga Khan scam, numerous other scams like paying off a terrorist, etc., revealed in mid-campaign to have hidden even from his own party that he had repeatedly donned blackface before entering politics, including as an adult and a 20-year-old teacher. So, the Liberals never turned on him, blah, 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 blah. It's a madhouse. The state of our, I want rational, working parties on both sides, because that's how shit gets done. I'm going to say that till I'm blue in the face. Having a strong left and a strong right, two major parties, are going to make the other party stronger, and it's going to encourage them to do better by their electorate. When you have a weak party and a dominant party, and I'm not talking just in an election cycle, I'm talking overall, it only serves to weaken the electorate.
Yep.
The people. Wife puts baby face on a t-shirt, scares the heck out of dad during rinse cycle. And as you can see the picture here that the dad took, that looks kind of real. Like maybe he did put the baby in with the wash. So poor dad. Poor dad.
That's actually funny though. It's mean, but it's funny.
Yeah. He was just walking by. He saw this. So, it wasn't like she was doing this to get a rise out of him, or that it was intentional or some kind of joke or anything. It was just a right place, right time. Walking by, saw that, kind of initially got freaked out, saw it was just a t-shirt, and kind of had a oh my god moment, like his heart skipped a beat. It was, oh man, it was kind of funny. Edmonton man gets 28 years in prison for attempted murder of policeman and pedestrians. So yeah, naysayers of the Second Amendment, we don't have gun rights. We have much more stringent gun control, especially in a city like Edmonton. And yet there's murder going on, egregious murder. So yeah. As Elwin said in chat earlier, if the victims had a gun, maybe they might have had a chance. I don't know.
Well, what you need is knife control. That's what the UK is doing. So.
You know what's sad though is they're already in the preparations for control over everything else, because once you do away with the knives, you're going to have fork control, you're going to have chopstick control, you're going to have spoon control, because you can cut out a knife.
Enough with the nanny state, though. Come on.
You say that, Jen, but you can't carry a screwdriver around in the UK.
Yeah,
and you can't carry scissors around now. You can't carry, like, hell, you can't even like nail clippers basically now. For God's sake.
Oh, sorry, Elowen. You know, it's funny going back to the dinosaurs just real quick because she's our best supporter. Hers was Brontosaurus. One of my first thoughts was going to be Diplodocus because they're massive creatures. But anyway, just buzzing through these stories. Average cost of a 1-bedroom rental in Toronto climbs to $2,314. Fucking hell, man! And I know these buildings too. These are right down at our lakefront. This is actually one of the highest crime neighborhoods in all of Toronto. Highest bug bite rates, highest poverty. Like these are some shitty neighborhoods. And even there, a 1-bedroom apartment at last I looked. So we're talking 4 years ago, exactly, Elwyn, Cockroach Central down on King Street, West End King, especially in these building clusters. Was I think about $1,600-1,700 for a 1-bedroom. That is
crazy.
Egregious. It is egregious.
That's gross. Actually,
just wanted to bring that up because again, it's one of the things we've been talking about over the last couple streams. Jen, is just it's getting ridiculous here to the point where people can't live here.
Yeah,
like even middle class. We're talking middle class working folk. Blue collar, white collar, middle class working folk cannot afford just living a decent lifestyle. You know what you would colloquially normally think of as a middle class life, and you're not living extravagantly, but you have enough left over every month to make some contributions, to your savings, to private insurance to supplement your
well, it's like I've always been taught,
things.
Your rent should never be more than 1/3 of what you make during the month.
Exactly, and it's getting to the point where this is like 3/4, or in some cases on the lower end, almost the entirety of your income.
Pretty much. And that means everybody is left looking for help to feed themselves.
Putting undue strain on an already strained system. Oh my God, move over Macaulay. Meet Archie Yates, the new lead in upcoming quote-unquote Home Alone reboot. So the gist of this is that Bob Iger, they're going to be, quote-unquote remaking Home Alone. It's not going to be outrightly called Home Alone, but it's going to be, basically the same story as Home Alone. And if they say reboot, that means there's going to be a whole, Home Alone cinematic universe. I'm so sick of this shit. Make a good fucking movie.
It's one of those things, yet again, if they want to do a new movie, like you have an opening in the old one. It's been how many years since Macaulay Culkin was the kid of the house?
Yeah.
How about Macaulay Culkin grew up and then he had a kid and then he had, well, you know what? My mom left me behind when I was a kid. Oh my God, I left my kid behind.
Dude, yeah. I would totally be down with that because I loved Home Alone as a kid. And even now, I look back, I watch them, and I'm like, yeah, these were actually good, fun movies. Good, clean fun.
And the amazing thing about that is, Macaulay Culkin still lives. Guess what?
He's on Screen Junkies.
He's cleaned up a lot. Like, I know he's had
some problems,
some problems, but most kids, most children as child actors had problems. I think he's fine now. He would have, if they really want to do a remake, they could have brought him back.
And okay, we're gonna take this kid who was not in a sexual way, but was a good-looking young kid. He had, those slapstick acting chops. Everybody remembers this.
Yes.
The
he was a cute kid. He was adorable.
And a decent actor. I normally hate children in film and TV, but he was decent. He was good. And they're going to replace him with this frumpy-looking motherfucker? I'll give it a second for it to catch up, but look at this kid. He's like the Downsy egg kid. He starred in something called Jojo Rabbit? Some fucking English kid?
He's the kid in class that tells on all the other students because they don't really like him because he's a smug little asshole.
He looks like the kid that ate Harry Potter. Like you couldn't get a better looking kid? Jesus Christ. You're just adding. Maybe they're just maybe it's going to be a British take, and maybe they're intentionally doing this because they're making they're poking fun at the Brits and saying, the Americans, we're good looking. You Brits, even as kids, you guys are frumpy as fuck. Speaking of frumpy as fuck kids, dun dun dun, Raptus Dominus, Greta Thunberg.
Oh,
So,
that
Thunberg.
kid. Okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, I know it takes a few seconds for you guys to catch up with what I'm putting on stream. Sorry, I kind of get carried away a little some of the time. Again, we're just trying to blast through these last few articles. Greta Thunberg apologized for against the wall comment because she said that saying that politicians should be put against the wall after, critics, her biggest detractors, and this is where I have a problem with the right, because most of them are people on the right who are saying, she meant the connotation of put them against the wall, line them up to be shot. No, that wasn't what she was saying.
I think that her handlers meant that.
I wouldn't. Maybe her handlers meant that in their minds, but as she says it in a, first of all, English is not her first language, so there's the language barrier. I'll give her that benefit of the doubt. But secondly, because she doesn't seem like a violent person. Yes, she seems very entrenched in her convictions. Elwin's dropping something. I'll get to that in a second, hun. But I took it to mean, because I heard the entirety of her quote and what she was saying as she was addressing the UN climate conference. Oh, wait, no, that's just the photo. Where was it? Yeah, it was in Madrid. Yeah, it was at the climate conference. She meant line them up so you can lambast them and talk sense into them and not let them escape until she gets her fucking dogmatic narrative into their heads. So yes, it is in a sense a form of violence, but not physical violence. More of a I'm suspending your rights because you have to listen to me.
It's functional. I think the thing that you're missing on that is what happens when she lines them up all on the wall, and she says all her stuff.
And then their parents and handlers do pull up the guns and shoot the leaders and take over. I agree with you on that point. I'm just saying that everybody saying that herself, in what she was saying is line them up and shoot them. And I'm not willing to concede to that point. I do say, again, I'm going to play it fair, just like I would with anything else, like what we were talking about with the two guys who lost their job for calling a woman an Eskimo when she was Inuit.
I might have to disagree with you again.
Sure,
I'm not saying that she's outright, because she's still a 16-year-old girl. She has mental issues. But the thing is she's been to Antifa rallies with her parents. Sure. She's literally got photos of herself in and out of that crowd. So while I don't think that she's going to be like, yeah, let's just shoot a bunch of people. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that's from her end. Okay. But I'm saying that the people who are leading her along are feeding that to her. That's why I absolutely detest seeing her on the screen. It's not her personally. Like I've seen that video where that rebel guy, Ken, is following her around and asking her questions, and she responds like a nice girl. Like she sounds like a genuine nice girl. But she's in the position right now where it doesn't matter if she's a nice girl.
Sure.
Because even if she doesn't mean what like she could mean exactly what you think she means.
Well, that's just the thing. I'm trying to play the position of I'm not going to infer these things based on nothing. Yeah. I'm going to listen to what she says and take it at face value. And I'm just saying that a lot of the critics on the right, predominantly the right, are inferring things and saying things. And, you know, I don't play that on any side. I'll take what she says. I'll still call her a fucking idiot and a puppet and all these things. But I don't think I'm not going to infer she means line them up and shoot them in the back of the head. Going back to what, you know, I hope, hey, Google, we're on your platform. This is your commercial. Elwin sent me this clip for the recent Google Macaulay Culkin commercial.
Yeah, the old house.
And I think it's kind of funny because, you know, he could do this again. Look at him.
Dad? Hey, Google, what's on my calendar today?
You have one event called House to Yourself.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Google, add aftershave to my shopping list. Hey, Google, remind me to clean these sheets later.
Okay, I'll remind you.
What do I owe you?
Looks like you paid online.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Google, turn down the temperature 2 degrees.
You know, for all the things that he did to Harv and Marv, if he were to do those again at his age, he would legit go to jail.
That's only because he's white. And only if Harv and Marv were bleeps.
Well, no, it's just I watched a guy go over like what those things would have actually done to a human being if they'd legit done it in real life.
Yeah.
And he did demonstrations with like melons and shit like that. I'm like, oh.
That was kind of cute. Yeah. Some stuff, more stuff. Two quick things that I really wanted to touch on because this is becoming a growing concern, and it relates to the Google commercial in that there are more and more stories of people hacking personal home appliances, smart appliances. And I'm not going to bring them up. I'm just going to quickly talk about them. A hacker accessed a family's Ring security camera and told their 8-year-old daughter he was Santa Claus. That's fucking scary.
And gross.
Well, no, it wasn't malicious. It was, you know, a joke.
Oh.
It is a little scary in that, you know, you're talking to a kid, but it wasn't like, hey, little girl, Santa Claus here. You know, it was like, ho, 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 I'm Santa. One that was a little bit more egregious. Stranger spews racial slurs over family's hacked Ring camera. And so the family was black. And, you know, the hacker said some things like, you know, is your kid a baboon like the monkey, said the hacker. For nearly 3 minutes, the couple endured hateful speech from the stranger. Their 15-year-old son never appeared in the camera's view. This left the family to believe the hacker was peering into their private life longer than just that night. This kind of stuff is
that's
really
messed
creepy.
up.
Yeah, but thing is, it's because people are fucking stupid with technology. People don't know how to secure the network. They don't know how to, you know, set up password longer than 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just like, and it's just anything can be secured or hacked if you just know how to, you know, the basic.
Yeah, you're really, really top tier hackers. They're probably not going to bother with this kind of shit.
Right.
So even having a cursory, and again, coming back full circle to not only our self-defense stuff, but our things we're not taught in school because technology has run away from society, policy, and lawmaking. We don't teach. I mean, I did when I was a kid. I don't see it now. People aren't taught as stringently to protect your shit. And like you said, have a password better than, you know, your birthday or your kid's name 123 or password 123. You know, you got to think of something a little bit more secure. Make sure that the appliances you're buying, like your smart TVs, your PCs, your Googles, your Google Homes, your Alexas, these kinds of things, secure them. It doesn't take much. And in fact, cursory Google search in how do I secure my smart fridge? It's very easy. You just have to do the legwork. And I think people, you know, with the technology, not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but they lean a little too hard on the technology and think that they buy it and then that's it. No, you got to secure all this shit, from your phone to your PC to hell, even cars that have smart technology in it. Secure all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most common password in the world is password 1234. I mean,
yeah, yeah. Look at Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I kind of wish that hers was Dyke.
So I'm gonna, let's finish off here. First off, there was a quick one. Taylor Swift goes on a lengthy rant about toxic male privilege in her Billboard speech. She waited for loud applause, but it never came. That's awkward. Suck on it, you fucking bitch. That's not it. That's it. Yay. So there's the first story that came out the other day. A dog taken from woman during medical episode the other day. Somebody stole this woman's little dog while she was having a seizure out in public. And it is
disgusting. Sorry.
It was kind of just, you know, you at first hear the story and you're kind of like, what the fuck? She fell ill on the subway, and somebody took the dog, but a bystander, a good Samaritan, saw it, reported it to police, or suspected that he saw the dog that was on the news, reported it to police. And I mean, look at how happy she is. Oh my God. You're such a, like, again, just another heartwarming story, because people in Toronto were really coming together over this. It really shows when we get down to brass tacks and do away with all the politicking and stuff, that when something really matters to people, like this is this woman's family member.
Well, it's not just that. Like, you can tell by the dog. Like, the dog is just beside himself.
Yeah. You can see that this woman here, this crazy bitch, took the dog. And, you know, it's so really cool that this Good Samaritan turned it in. Happy ending to the story. And it's appalling that the guy stole the dog, or the woman. It wasn't a guy, it was a woman. Stole the dog to begin with, but it's good that we have a good ending to the story, a happy ending to the story, and that family was reunited, because there is nothing more devastating to a family than a family member, be it canine or your own flesh and blood, that
well, that's yet again, that's why, you know, like earlier I told that story about the dog with Bloodwing on his stream. And it was just, like I said, when I see a dog sitting outside for 30 minutes, then I start wondering, you know, if it's for a significant long amount of time, I start wondering, because like I said, I realize that sometimes people just go in to grab a few things and they come out.
Yeah.
You know, a 10-minute wait for a dog isn't that big a deal. I mean, they don't like it, but they'll live. But, you know, after 30 minutes, I start really getting concerned, because, like, even a dog, like, that dog wasn't meant for outside for long periods of time. Like, he didn't have a thick fur coat. It was a she, for one thing. She looked like she just had puppies, so her dog boobies were hanging out. And I'm just like, she's got to be so cold, you know, like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Elwyn's such a sucker for doggos. She loves it. And they love her. It is incredible how quick any dog get so happy around her. You know, I'm friendly with dogs. I love dogs. I love our canine friends. I'll approach the owner and be like, is it cool? And, you know, like, give the dog a pet and let him give me some kisses and whatever. And, you know, but, you know, with her, it's just so, I'm just like you. I'll take notice when somebody's, you know, racked up their dog. And if I'm, you know, running into the grocery store or grabbing some smokes or whatever, some smokes and a 6-pack, eh? Get me and then hop over to the Timmy's and grab me a double and some Timbits. You know, I'll take notice that, wow, that dog has been there the entire time. I might do something. I might say something if the owner actually does come around. You know, again, like you were saying, in extreme weather cases or whatever. Yeah, definitely. Because come on, guys, treat your animals a little bit better than that.
Yeah. You know, it's just like, you know, especially when you're out for that long. I mean, if you know that you've been in the store for longer than 15 minutes and your pet's still sitting outside.
Or in the car during summertime or what have you, even just alone. You know, you got to be a little bit, some people have to be a little bit more cognizant. I don't have it readily available. There was a video caught on CCTV of a woman getting into an elevator and forgetting about her fucking dog. So the elevator closes on the leash. The dog is on the lobby side. The woman's in the elevator, and by some small fucking miracle, this man comes out of nowhere on the CCTV. You see it on the CCTV screen.
Yeah.
And saves the dog, like unleashes it, toot sweet, and saves the dog from a fucking brutal hanging.
Well, it would have cut its head off. Like, oh my god. Yeah, because the elevator's not going to stop.
And here, I just found it, so I'm going. Okay, first of all, let's quickly touch on this meme. I loved it. I saw it. I just loved it. If you don't stop lying, you'll grow up to be a reporter for the CBC. I thought that was cute. So here we go. CCTV captures dramatic moment. Man saves dog after leash caught in elevator. So you can see here in the opening thumbnail, here's the man. You see the dog here. It looks like a Pomeranian. The door to the elevator's closed, okay? You can't see it in the picture, but the leash right here is stuck in the elevator door. I'm going to play the video now. So you can see this dumb fat cunt walk into the elevator. Leash is closing. The guy's standing there in amazement that this is happening. Acts. Doesn't even fucking think about it. Look, you can see the leash is already up into the corner. It's one of the, thankfully, it's one of the extendo leashes because it was giving some lead before he was able to actually get it unclipped. Fucking not all heroes wear capes. This guy is a fucking hero. That woman is a fucking monster.
That poor dog.
You know, I can't say with certainty that she's a monster, but that amount of just non-self-awareness, especially when you're supposed to be this living creature's charge and protector, to do something like that. Oh, what a fucking cunt.
Some people shouldn't just have pets, period.
Yes, agreed.
Some people are so inept at taking care of themselves. And really, this isn't so much of a judgment as just a statement of fact that they shouldn't be allowed to have charges. And by charges, I mean somebody who is under their care, whether it be children or pets. They just can't. And it's not a judgment call. I'm not calling you a bad person, but maybe you should think about it. Because how many times do we see these sad stories about people mistreating animals, abandoning animals on the side of the road in cardboard boxes or just to the elements? I bring up those stories all the time, but I'm a lot like Monkey, and I'm just like, I can't handle these stories. Some of them, even though they have happy outcomes that I see on like the Dodo,
Yeah.
But of these animals that are abandoned and mistreated, and I just can't, man. I just can't bring them up. I can't talk about them. They're just too. But yeah, thank you to Devin Tracy. Fucking amazing meme. Oh my god, hopelessly insane, regressive, fat brown buffalo for Congress. Regressive poop, fat brown buffalo for Congress. Hates whites, defends Islam, eats shit. Endorsed by Bernie, then lost all endorsements in the same fucking day. Lol. Keep this fat piece of shit out of public office. Rejected by everyone, but especially women. Fuck this douche nozzle. Just such a great meme, huh?
You know what's really sad is out of all the people applying to become a part of the Dems, he's not the worst. I hate him too. Like, I don't want him in politics either. But when you're looking at him and you're like, you know, despite the fact that I know your history and I know you're kind of a sack.
Name one, though. No, honestly, like, I really can't think of many people. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who's currently in politics right now, or who's announced that they're going into politics that isn't some just fringe nut. The case might be made that this person, that they might be fringe, but their reach with his reach with TYT, they're mainstream media.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call him fringe. I think he's one of the biggest pieces of shit out there, and I think he's like the can says, hopelessly insane and entirely dangerous. So I'd like to hear from you. Could you think of anyone who's more dangerous? I don't think that AOC or Bernie are, or Warren or
Tlaib is.
Okay, yeah,
because she has the whole Muslim thing,
but he and Tlaib are in the same kind of camp. The Buffalo and Tlaib, you know, they're part of that same progressive movement who are actual regressives. So
right, but then with Chunk is just a progressive that's a douchebag. The problem with Tlaib is she is an anti-Semite on top of that, and she's
anti-white, anti-Western, pro-Sharia.
Yep, her ideology is more harmful to the United States than Chunk. Chunk is just basically liberal, progressive retard. That's all he is.
A regressive, yeah. See, but again, I would say because of she has a very small amount of power. The media has given her a little bit more, but again, with his platform of TYT, I think he reaches and it's been proven that he's Gavin Long, for one, a diehard Keek fan who was radicalized by TYT and specifically Keek and shot up a bunch of innocent people. So, you know, we're going to have to agree to disagree. I do agree with a lot of the points.
Saying he's a good candidate when I
no,
say
no. Nobody's saying that here.
Look at Maxine Waters. I mean, you could say the same thing about her. She's been in charge for ages. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying, given what they've had over the last couple of elections, they don't really have a lot of people. At least with Cenk, you might sway him. Because he's at least, you could still talk to the guy. I mean, he'll probably argue with you because he's an idiot like that. But at least you can have a conversation. Whereas some of those people, you can't even have a conversation. They would just put you in jail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of those things where, like, I mean, if the only thing he has to offer you is at least the freedom of speech, he's still doing a little bit better.
And so to end off the trifecta of memes, oh man, I really want to. It's times like this I really wish I had. You know what, Jen? I'm going to send you this. Can you send it to Monkey on Twitter on my behalf?
Okay.
Because this is I think some modern art that I think we can agree upon. Yeah. Nothing wrong with some hot Instagram model bitches with their own interpretation of banana art.
I'd eat a banana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to be careful what I say, but I kind of wish. I'm jealous of the banana.
No.
She's hot. What can I say? You know?
Yeah, but I would eat
Fortunately, I'm in a loving long-term relationship who I wouldn't risk my happiness for anything, not even a cleavage banana of such caliber.
I mean, if you really want to, you could always hand her a roll of duct tape and a banana.
Did I accidentally misclick on CRYPTIC there?
Oh no, that was me.
Okay.
If it really gets hard for you there, darling, you can always just take some like hockey tape and a banana and just make it a little bit more Canadianized.
But I mean, sometimes there's just some of those memes, those news stories that become memes, and I just kind of groan at because it's like, you're not funny. You're being cheap. That one was actually really like, I kind of appreciated that one. That one's kind of cool, and I hope that one catches on. But yeah,
it's like what? She's gonna go get some tape now.
As we come to the end of the stream, because we're almost at the 2:30 mark, and I like to have a little bit of a buffer. I'm not as anal as most, but I think today we should end it off on that note.
Yeah.
Any last minute questions, concerns, final statements? CRYPTIC? Dad jokes. You are internet famous for your dad jokes.
I am, but put me
Am I putting you on the spot?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like that. But I would love to be the banana right now. So that is my statement, and I can say that because I don't have a lady that will kill me. So
well, I do have a policy of look but don't touch, because why would I risk my sheer happiness with the person who I was lucky enough to find, because a lot of people don't find that person that makes them feel every day like they're complete, like they are a better person, and lucky is all shit to find this person, and feels better and wants to be better every day because this person is in their life.
See?
But if I wasn't, oh hell yeah, I'd be that.
Let's all be real. If we all stopped looking at people, everyone would be blind. So that's not going to happen. What does happen is understanding that I'm just looking. There's no staying with the looks. And I'm not really comparing. It's just there's just some people that you can't help but look at.
Well, she's a very popular and attractive Instagram model for a reason. She takes care of herself. She does a lot of hard work to keep up that appearance. And, on a little bit of a personal note, I said that to Elwin today. Like, I really appreciate the lengths that you go to be really attractive, like ridiculously good looking, because I'm an average looking chud. I'm not ugly. I'm an average looking dude. I'm not, I'm no Brad Pitt. Hell, I'm no Mike Myers, but you're a hot piece of woman, and cool. You chose me. That's fucking amazing. Any final statements, Jen? Questions, concerns?
No, I'm pretty good.
All righty.
Wait. One thing. Let's be real. She's probably looking at her own version of, like, I like Chris Hemsworth. He's one of those ones that I look at. But I'm sure she's got one guy that she looks at, and she's like, you know what? I love you more than I love him, but he's pretty.
I think it's she's a huge Tenet fan. Matt Smith, maybe. She's got a few. We joke about these kinds of things every now and then, but we're both mostly secure in knowing that at the end of the day, I'm coming home to you, babe.
You know what though? You know what makes for a perfect relationship though is when you're comfortable enough with your partner that you can do that. Like I've known couples who were strong in their relationship that they would do that. They would watch a TV show and then they would do comparison. What do you think of this one? Did you think that one's kind of
and
hot?
Be secure to have those kinds of conversations? Sure,
absolutely, and that's how it's kind of how you knew.
And just like I'm in, I'm secure enough in my own heterosexuality and my own manhood that I can say something like, yeah, you know, probably if I was of those persuasions, I might not find him my cup of tea per se, but I can look at the Hemsworth brothers and say they are probably really good looking dudes to, you know, a large swath of women and a, you know, a couple guys. For me, I would look at somebody, I'm a very cerebral person, an artistic person. So I would look at someone more like a Pedro Pascal, a Tom Hardy, and be like, they are sexy dudes because they've got that sort of swagger. They come off as more intelligent. They can act. So that shows that they're in touch with like their artistic side. That's something that if I was of that persuasion, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be more attracted probably to those kinds of guys. But on that note, with my questioning the sexuality of my own self, we have been the Snow Mexicans with our special guest, CRYPTIC, and we will see you next time. When would that be, Jen?
Well, I will be.
I actually put it in the description this time.
Woo! Yeah, so the next stream I will be doing will be on Tuesdays. So I always host that at
5 p.m. EST.
5 p.m. EST or 3 p.m. Western if you live in the West like I do. Woo! Or after Bloodwing's show, depending on whether or not he hosts one, because we know his schedule's kind of what?
Exactly. The link for Snow Mexicans is in the description. So if you're, well, let's face facts. I have a lot fewer subscriptions on this channel. So hopefully we can grow that a little bit more. And if you're here already or watching this in future, you're probably already subscribed there. But if not, go ahead and subscribe because me and my magnanimous co-host, Jenny Maxey, host the Snow Mexican show 3 nights a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. On that note, take care, everyone, and goodbye.
Adios, muchachos. Adios.
And you know, I realized